For All Mankind, Season 3, Episode 8 Recap and Ending Explained. After the explosive cliffhanger last week, this week in For All Mankind deals with the search for survivors, the search for the MSAM, a team-up with NASA and Helios. Or Margot Madison and Dev Isa with their respective teams, all working together to execute an effective search and rescue. While inside the MSAM, Danny Stevens and Ed Baldwin's confrontation boils over. This is an emotionally charged episode which is making this season slowly race towards the finish line. The effects of the Mars quake are felt by the NASA crew at Happy Valley. As Baronoff checks on the seismograph, he identifies it as a landslide, while Danielle pinpoints the epicenter near the Helios site. Kelly begins to attempt communication with Helios base, while Danielle instructs Baronoff and Tyler to load up the rovers and tanks and conduct a search for the crew. Realizing that something catastrophic must have happened, and strictly instructing Baronoff and Tyler to nip their interpersonal crap in the bud. As we see a worried Kelly trying hard to connect with Helios, eager for news of the astronauts and especially the two men in her life, we see one of them burrowing out of the sand. Alexei Peletov barely manages to burrow himself out of the sandy terrain in which he had been buried after the landslide. As he tries to make out amidst the dusty hazy surroundings, trying to connect with his crew, he makes out a foot dressed in the same suit as the Helios astronauts. Rushing forward, he digs the body out, which is revealed to be Nick Caradu, who we see has died after the plexiglass helmet had broken, his skin carrying a bluish tint, resembling a body that has died from lack of oxygen. We cut back to Ellen having made an unofficial visit to her ex-girlfriend Pam. When asked why she is sitting across from her instead of navigating important work befitting the president, same questions the viewer must have at this point. Ellen confronts Pam with the breakup letter she had been served with years ago. She confirms to Ellen that she had lied to her, scoffing at how Ellen didn't even put up a fight when Pam had produced her fabricated reasons. She reveals that she gave her up because the life she envisioned wouldn't be fair to Ellen, who is destined for greater things and has the opportunity to help people like us. But now, Pam is disappointed, as Ellen has compromised so much that she has traveled off the beaten path she had laid down for herself. Ellen, visibly moved and frustrated, laments at the lack of true power she has, having to sneak out to visit the love of her life, having to settle for what's possible, instead of the desired outcome. As she gets called back because of the situation on Mars, we are left to wonder where this plot thread is going. Beyond shaking Ellen's beliefs and maybe her finally deciding to come out of the closet publicly, Alexei and Louisa finally manage to reunite amidst the dusty and hazy landscape of Mars, while also discovering Isabel Castillo's dead body. Louisa is concerned about the missing MSAM, HABs, and fuel factory, and wonders if they are the only survivors in this rapidly deteriorating hellscape. Back in orbit, Phoenix continues contact with Happy Valley, who informs them that they are starting to conduct a rescue if possible. Phoenix reveals that they were able to contact Habitat 2 and would send the position to their rovers, with Kuznetsov, Dr. Mayakovsky, and Lars Hagstrom managing to remain alive after that landslide, having locked themselves in the habitat. No contact with Habitat 1, believed to contain Ed Baldwin and Danny Stevens. Happy Valley's rescue team was supposed to arrive in 2 hours. HAB-2's omnidirectional antenna being damaged means that they can contact Phoenix off-planet but are unable to resume contact on the surface. As Phoenix switches to inverse synthetic aperture radar, (ISAR), to look past the smoke and debris and identify any survivors, Helios and Devisa are looking at the same images as Phoenix. Realizing that there is nothing left after that destruction beyond caved-in lava tubes and debris, the team led by Bill Strasser advises ISA to reach out to NASA to coordinate with the rescue efforts to search for survivors trapped beneath the debris with limited oxygen, which is running out. The team decides to go to the JSC and regroup there, so they walk out while Karen decides to reach out to the families of the unaccounted astronauts personally. Karen converses with a quiet and focused concentration. Dev, who, looking at Karen, promises to find Ed with everything in his power, his brain, we realize, is working in overdrive to figure out all the variables to mount this rescue. Ed Baldwin and Danny Stevens are currently inside HAB-1, apparently inverted due to the landslide, buried 20 feet below the surface. Danny cleans up Ed's abdominal wound, which was caused by shrapnel from the drill when it fell apart. As he cleans and bandages the wound, Danny reveals that there isn't any exit wound, which means that pieces of shrapnel are still inside Ed. While the emergency beacon is broadcasting, whether they will reach Helios Base or Happy Valley is debatable, and since they are trapped at the airlock, the only source of oxygen is the present artificial atmosphere in the HAB, and the oxygen in their suits, which would run out soon enough. A dire situation made all the more uncomfortable for Ed, who is not happy to be stuck with the insubordinate and not yet revealed culprit of this entire debacle. The camera pans away from the surface and we see what is presumably the spot where the HAB is buried, impossible to identify as it is covered over by the sand and smoothed out, looking like a normal part of the dusty landscape of Mars. Danny Stevens is suffering from withdrawal symptoms and exhibiting cold sweats, which prompts Ed to instruct him to drink the water Ed had been drinking through their spacesuit. As Ed starts to remind him to get off the pills, Danny fires back, reminding Ed that he had been injecting anabolics for the last 5 years. As the withdrawal manages to overtake Danny, his sullen, defeatist attitude starts getting on Ed's nerves, along with ours.